Welcome, everybody, and great to have you at the beginning of a new series, the Secret of Reincarnation. This is a topic that I find myself coming back to over and over again. That was a joke. But it is a topic that does capture your imagination and fascination. The idea that we might have been here before, that our lives did not necessarily begin with our birth, but preceding our birth, we had a pre-life, a life before, another place, another identity, and our souls have come back to continue the work or to do some unfinished business or whatever it may be that we need to do in this lifetime. And we might be back as well. We might be back after this lifetime. That idea, I think, is one that fascinates and opens up new vistas, new possibilities, and could also explain a lot about our lives as well. And so in exploring it, as we're going to do in this series, we're going to explore the authentic Jewish sources on this topic and to really understand what is our belief in reincarnation, what are the details of it, what are the laws of reincarnation, the parameters, in what forms are we reincarnated, how many times, and why. Most importantly, why are we reincarnated? And that's what we're going to concentrate on this evening. What is the point of reincarnation? If I have lived my life and I come to the end of my life, that's it. What do I need to come back for? What's the purpose of reincarnation? We'll also be looking at in what forms we can be reincarnated. Human form, non-human form. Is it possible that this lifetime I'm a human, but previous I was not a human? Is that possible? And why? Why would that happen? What would be the point of a human soul being reincarnated in non-human form? How many times can that happen? And what's it like? What does it feel like to not be human? Do we remember these things? And if not, why not? Can we access our previous lives? All these questions and more we're going to be exploring and answering as we go through. But the first question that we need to deal with before we get into those ones is, indeed, is reincarnation a Jewish idea? Is it a Jewish thought, or is it something that is borrowed from other spiritual disciplines and philosophies? Because many people who have studied Judaism their entire lives and had a Jewish education and read the Torah, read the Talmud, the oral tradition, would be able to tell you that there is zero mention of reincarnation, not in the 5 books of Moses, not in the books of the prophets or the writings, the book of Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, not one mention of living and coming back again, not in human form or animal form or any other form. It's simply not mentioned. And the Talmud, the compendium of Jewish wisdom that expands and explains the written Torah, also has no mention of reincarnation, of the idea of coming back again. And so if the classic fundamental works of Judaism, the source of our philosophy, of our beliefs, if they don't speak of reincarnation, so then how could we call reincarnation a Jewish belief? It's not. You can't take an idea and borrow it from another culture and say it's yours. It's theirs. You can borrow, but in Judaism, it doesn't seem to have any discussion of reincarnation. And this has been said by some great scholars of Judaism, and they argue this. And you can find till today wise rabbis and educated rabbis who will tell you reincarnation is not a Jewish idea. It's not a part of Judaism. Well, we'd have to stop the class there because I generally teach Judaism and not other religions. And so why would we go into reincarnation if it's not a Jewish idea? Well, the answer is that indeed, you can't find reincarnation in the revealed Torah, but you can find it in the hidden Torah. That what that means is that just like a person has different layers to them, so too the Torah has different layers to it. A person, when we look at a person, we look around the room, there are people. What we see is their external facade. I can see your face, I can see your body, your physical presence, and that's all I can see. But that is not the totality of a person. A person has many, many layers. There's your personality, and your moods and your philosophies and your thoughts and feelings. And there's layers even deeper than that. There's your soul and your spiritual self and your inner self. These are all layers that I can't see. I can get to know them by getting to know you. If we chat a bit and discuss and talk, and I hear a bit about your experiences and where you're from and what you're up to, I'll start to hear a bit of your background. I'll get a feeling of your personality. I can hear some of your ideas and the way you think. And as I get to know you, I discover layers that were not apparent at the first time. When you walked into the room, I may have made a judgment of what type of person you were, and whether I think we could get on or not, based on very external, superficial judgments. But then when we spoke, I saw, oh, there's actually a lot we have in common. I didn't guess that. I didn't think you'd be that type. And we find a whole new layer within each other. And if we spent longer time with each other and many, many hours and many weeks and months and years together, then we'll get to know each other very deeply and know many, many layers that we did not see at first. That's how a person works. The Torah is exactly the same. There's a surface level of the Torah, which is the literal laws, stories, and the familiar structure that Torah has. You open the book of the Torah, it talks about in Genesis, the beginning, God created the earth. It talks about our mothers and fathers, the ancestors of the Jewish people, Abraham and Sarah, and their families and their stories, and going down to Egypt, and the miracles and wonders of leaving Egypt and traveling through the desert for 40 years, and arriving in the land of Israel, and then we're going to the book, the next books, and it goes through like a history, and interspersed in that history is commandments and laws. This is how you should live your life. This is what you should do. So it's a book of stories and commandments. That is indeed what the Torah is. That's on its surface level, and that's it. But the Torah is much more than its surface. It has depth. It has inner meaning. Every story in the Torah has symbolism to it, is a soul story, is a spiritual story. It's not just talking about the people. They did exist. But it's not the fact that their story was recorded for all generations was because their story had a divine meaning behind it, had something deeper. And that you don't see straight away when you read the Torah. But if you study it deeply, you can then be introduced to the inner Torah, the hidden Torah, the mystical side of Torah, which is commonly known as the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is the soul of Judaism. It's the soul of Torah. And just like you can't have a body without a soul, it's not complete. So too, you can't have Judaism without its soul, without the Kabbalah. When you study Torah without the mystical inner meaning, it's beautiful, it's powerful, it's holy, but the soul is missing. The energy is missing. Whereas when you do study the Torah with its inner meanings, it comes alive. Every story that seems archaic, irrelevant, and strange suddenly becomes powerful, personal, and real. Every law that seems so minute in its detail and strange and odd suddenly has this inner spiritual compelling meaning to it that it's talking to my soul. You got to get to know it. Don't make a knee-jerk judgment of the person who walks in the room. Get to know the person. So too with the Torah, get to know it deeper, and it's a totally different world. When it comes to reincarnation, so reincarnation is indeed not written in the Torah, in the revealed Torah. But in the Kabbalistic works, there's a huge amount about reincarnation. In the mystical side of Judaism, there is entire treatises that deal with this idea. For example, the Zohar. The Zohar is one of the most fundamental Kabbalistic works written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, a great sage of the 2nd century in Israel. And him and his students, his teaching, he taught the inner meaning of Torah. And there's a section in the parsha, in the portion of the Torah called Mishpatim, in the book of Exodus, a book that is a section of the Torah that's full of laws, one law after the other, about when you lose lost objects, and somebody finds it, that they have to return it. And if somebody has an ox and a donkey, they can't use them together to do their plowing, and all different laws of various different types. The Zohar on that portion says all these laws are the laws of reincarnation. And it goes there through a long, long explanation of how souls come down and how property changes from one hand to another, or different things happen, accidents happen to a person, where they have to deal with their health. All of these things are part of a reincarnation story, a broader story of your life. And all the laws are to right the wrongs and to fix things up so souls end up in their correct place. So a whole long treatise on it in the Kabbalah. But if you read the book of Exodus, you would not see it. But if you read the Zohar, then suddenly it means something totally different. And so too with many of the great works of Kabbalah, when you study them, you then go back to the familiar stories of the Torah, and they are opened up with a totally new meaning. Suddenly you understand them with a completely different picture because you meet the soul of those stories. We'll see a few examples of that. So too the great Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, he was a Kabbalist who lived in the 1500s in Tzfat in Israel. If you've ever been to Tzfat, so there are two shuls called the Arizal shuls. There were two shuls that he went to. One's Ashkenazi, one's Sephardi. It's debated what he is. His last name was Ashkenazi, which indicates he must be Sephardi, because if you're Ashkenazi, why would you be called Ashkenazi? Must be his family came from Germany some time back and into Spain, and they were Spanish. It's all argued exactly who he was and what he was. But there are two shuls that are called the Arizal shuls, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, because he prayed in them. There's a mikveh, a natural spring under the mountain in Tzfat, a natural freezing cold water spring, which is his mikveh that he immersed in, that's still there till today. And the whole city of Tzfat is the city of mysticism, largely because of the Arizal Rabbi Yitzchak Luria who taught there. There were other Kabbalists before him and after him, but he was the main one. He was the one who, his teachings spread far and wide throughout the entire Jewish world. And this is in the 1500s, before they had WhatsApp groups. And so for an idea to spread, it must be very, very powerful. And his ideas spread everywhere, to the point where many of our traditions and prayers are based on the structure of the Arizal. And he only lived 2 years in Tzfat. He passed away in his late 30s and only spent his last 2 years in Tzfat. And in those 2 years, he revolutionized Judaism and spread Kabbalah in an amazing way. He didn't write down any of his teachings, but his students did. And we have the books known as the Writings of the Arizal were written by his students. And one of them, I have in front of me actually, called Shar HaGilgulim, which means the gate of reincarnation. An entire book just dedicated to the understandings of reincarnation. The Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, had the power to look at a person and to know where they came from, to know what their past life was, and to know what they were doing in this life. He was also able to look at figures from our history, from the Torah, and trace where they came from and where they belonged and what their soul journey was. He had this power. And so in his book, the book of his teachings, we hear a few of those, and we're going to look at one of those soon. So he had teachers, but he also had revelation. The word Kabbalah literally means to receive, a received teaching. So what that has several meanings to it. One of them is you can't make it up. It has to be received. It has to be taught to you. Because ultimately all these teachings have to come from Mount Sinai, taught by God to Moses, and handed down. Moses received Kabbalah. He received the mystical teachings and taught them to the sages that came after him, and it was passed down. You can't make this stuff up. You can't just decide, I reckon this is what it is. This is what I have a gut feel. You have to receive it. It could be received from a teacher who received it from a teacher all the way back, or sometimes it can be received more directly from a heavenly source. One of the major sources of Kabbalistic teaching is Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah, the prophet Elijah, who we just had Pesach and we opened the door for him because we, on the one hand, hope that he comes to announce the coming of Mashiach, the Messianic era, but also we say that he visits every Seder, he's at every bris, that Elijah, the prophet, didn't die. He went up in a chariot of fire, alive, into heaven, and he can come back down. And there are stories of great Kabbalists who had what's called Gilui Eliyahu, revelations of Elijah the prophet. They would come and they would teach deeper understandings. And the Arizal had that regularly. And so his teachings were on a higher plane. What's amazing about them is they fit in to the teachings that came before him, but they take it to a new level. So ideas that are written in the Zohar, which was 400 or 500 years before, sorry, 1300 years before him. So those teachings are elucidated by the Arizal. Because he learned them from on a higher and deeper level. They're more understandable after the Arizal taught them. Because they all come eventually from the same source, but it depends on how, I guess, sensitive and high the soul is to be able to receive these teachings. And the Arizal had a very high soul. So we've opened a new world. The Torah, which is the familiar stories of our people, that is the revealed Torah. But those same stories have a Kabbalistic meaning, a mystical meaning, which are revealed in the works like the Zohar and the Arizal and the other great Kabbalists. And so once you learn that, you can't unsee it. You look at the simple stories of the Torah and you see the deeper ones. I want to give an example of this, of some familiar stories in the Torah, and then look at the Kabbalistic layer that introduces reincarnation to them to get right into it. So one of the most famous stories, biblical stories that the average person in the world has at least heard of is the story of Noah's Ark. The basics of the story is that the world had become corrupt. It was only 10 generations into history from Adam and Eve, and the world had already become corrupt. And so God says, I'm going to destroy the world. There's only one righteous person with his family, Noah, and his wife, his 3 sons and their wives. So that's all that's left. 8 people who are righteous. Everybody else is not righteous. And so I'm going to destroy the world and start again with Noah and his family. Noah, you're going to be the father of the new generation of people. But how does God do this? He does this in a delayed way. He says, I'm going to bring a flood, so you need to start building an ark. And this ark is going to contain a cross-section of all of the animals that there are in the world, so they can be saved. Every species will come onto the ark. Some plants you'll take onto the ark as well. And your little family, you will survive, and from you, I'll create a new world. So Noah did what he was told. He started building the ark. It took a long time to build the ark because God wanted to give time for people to say, what are you doing? And he said, there's going to be a flood, hoping that people might change their ways, but they didn't. And so Noah built his ark. The rain started coming. He went on with his family and he was saved. The rest of humanity was washed away. So this was the story of Noah. Interestingly, in the Tanakh, in the Hebrew Bible, the flood is referred to as Mei Noach. Mei Noach means the waters of Noah, the flood of Noah. Why is it called the flood of Noah? If you think about it, he's the only one who didn't have the flood. Everyone else had a flood. He was on his cruise. Why is it called Mei Noach, the flood of Noah? So the Zohar, the Kabbalistic explanation says, Noah was held somewhat accountable for the flood. Even though he was the righteous one, and the rest of the world were unrighteous, but he was a leader. He was the spiritual leader of his generation. He should have stood up for them. He should have prevented the flood coming. When God told him, I'm bringing a flood and the world is going to be destroyed, Noah should have protested. He should have said something. He should have got up and made noise. He accepted the idea, okay, there's going to be a flood, that's it. He didn't take responsibility for his generation. He didn't try to put a stop to it. He didn't try to change people. He didn't protest against God and say, give us a chance. I'm going to do something. He just accepted. God said, I'm going to destroy the world. And he said, okay, that's fine. And even though that sounds, well, what would you do if God tells you this is what I'm going to do? Would you argue? Well, then you're not a leader. A leader is someone who is responsible for his people and wants to try and save them. He was the spiritual leader of his generation. He could have influenced them. He could have protested against God and made things differently. He just accepted and let it happen. So therefore, the Zohar says that the flood is called Mei Noach. It's the flood of Noah. It's Noah's flood. He was righteous, but he wasn't righteous enough to save his generation. And that, therefore, is a blemish on Noah's soul. Now, the Kabbalists teach that when a soul is blemished, when a soul has not fulfilled its mission, when a soul didn't do what it was supposed to do in their lifetime, so they could be given a second chance. And this is the fundamental belief of reincarnation in Jewish writings, is that reincarnation is the opportunity to fix what you didn't do last time. That if you had a mission that wasn't fulfilled, if there was a deed that you needed to do, that you neglected to do it, if there was something that you could have done in the world and you didn't manage to do it, so then you need to fix that. And your opportunity is to come back a second time and to do it, to do what you didn't do, to complete unfinished business. But how do you do that? You have to come down in another form, and you have to be given the same circumstances, the same choice that you had last time that you made the wrong choice. You have to be given the same circumstances, and this time get it right. Do what you're supposed to do. And so you may not remember this, you may not know this, but you'll have an opportunity to do it. And so this happened with Noah. In the book of the Zohar, and it's explained further by the Arizal, that Noah had a second chance. Think about this. His mistake was he was a leader of his generation. He was told by God, they're not righteous, you are. I'm going to destroy them and I'll rebuild from you. That was the moment of truth. That was when he had to stand up as a leader and say, I want to stand up for them. But he didn't. He just accepted what God said. And so he needs to be put into that circumstance again, where you're the leader of the generation. They're not righteous. God says, I'm going to destroy them, and you have to stand up for them. Where do we find in the Torah that happened? Moses. Very good. Correct. What's the story? We've got to fast forward a couple of thousand years from the times of Noah to the times of Moses. Moses led the Jewish people out of Egypt and led them to Mount Sinai to receive the Torah. He went up the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. And the people, or at least some of the people, miscalculated when he was supposed to come down, and they thought he's gone, he's disappeared. We don't have a leader anymore. And so some of the rabble said, well, we need a new leader. Let's make an idol. That was their suggestion. And so indeed, they made a golden calf, an idol. Only a few weeks after receiving the Torah, here they are making an idol. And many of the people went along with it. Moses up on the mountain, and at the bottom of the mountain, a big chunk of the Jewish people are dancing around an idol. So God says to Moses, go down and fix your people up, because they're getting destroyed. I'm going to destroy them. There's no way that can last. You're righteous, Moses. You're a righteous person, but they have worshipped idols. So God says to Moses, I'm going to wipe them out. As a punishment, the Jewish people will be wiped out, and from you, Moses, I'll build my chosen people. Says the Zohar, at that moment, Moses was in the exact situation that Noah had been. The people were not righteous. I'm going to destroy them and rebuild from you. A repeat, because Moses had Noah's soul. And this was his opportunity to fix what had not been done the first time, the leadership that he didn't show. So what did Moses do? Moses said, forgive them. Give them another chance. He said to God, who had said, I'm going to destroy them, forgive them. Now, Moses did take a hint from God's words. God had told Moses, leave me, and I'm going to wipe them out. What do you mean, leave me? And if I don't leave you, then you won't. What? He got the hint. This is my moment. And so he said, no, don't wipe them out. Wipe me out. That's what Moses said. You want to wipe them out? I'll go with them. You can wipe me out, because I will have no part in you and in your Torah if you destroy the people. I won't stand for it. That was Moses' statement. Bold. Very, very strong thing to do, but that's a leader. A leader stands for his people. And You can wipe me out if you want to wipe them out.
Huh?
Me out
No,
too.
sorry.
No,
So
I'm just listening to the thing.
sorry if you don't
I thought you
mind
were on the
muting
phone.
there.
Oh.
Thanks. Um, so that was the moment of truth. At that moment, what Moses did is he corrected Noah's failure. The soul of Noah that had not fulfilled its mission as a leader was corrected and turned around at that moment when Moses said, "Wipe me out." A fascinating thing that Arizal points out in the Zohar, that the word wipe me out in Hebrew is mecheni. Mecheni means wipe me out. It's with four letters, mem, chet, nun, yud. Those letters rearranged are the words May Noach, the flood of Noah. May Noach, the flood of Noah, is the same letters, mem, yud, nun, chet, as mecheni, wipe me out. When Moses said the words mecheni, wipe me out, he was rearranging the flood of Noah, the blame that Noah held for the flood because he didn't stand up for his people. And so it was at that very moment that the soul was corrected. Interestingly, that wasn't the end of Moses' life. This was still quite early in his career. This was the first year after leaving Egypt. There was another 40 years of journeying. So if Moses was a reincarnation of Noah, and his whole mission was to fix Noah's mistake, and he did that after the golden calf by saying, "Wipe me out." So what's the rest of his life about? If he's fixed what he came to do, so isn't that it? Do we only live to fulfill our mission, and once we've done it, there's no reason to live? There are many stories, and we'll see some, where people have fulfilled their mission, and that's it. Once you do the thing you came down to do, you're done in this world. You're free to go to a higher world. And yet Moses continued to live for many years after this. So if his whole mission was to correct Noah's soul, once he's done it, what's his job? Correct. So one answer is he and we all have more than one mission. There may be one particular mission we need to do. There may be one thing that our soul is here to correct. That doesn't mean that's it. That doesn't mean that's the whole reason we're in this world. There are some souls who come down for one particular reason, and that's all. They just need to do that and nothing else. That can happen, and there are such stories. But many of us will have different missions every day, and many missions every day. There may be one big one that defines our life, but that doesn't mean it ends our life. It could come, we do it, and we then move on to the next mission. And that's indeed the case with Moses as well. But another possibility and an explanation in Moses' case is that there are really two different types of reincarnation. There's reincarnation that starts at birth and goes till death. And then there's a form of reincarnation which is called an ibur. Ibur literally means pregnancy, where a soul becomes impregnated with another soul for a temporary amount of time. Just like a woman becomes pregnant for 9 months, there's another person inside of her, and then that person moves on. So too, it can happen to your soul that you become impregnated with another soul, and that other soul stays with you for a certain amount of time and then moves on. Yes. Two souls that are sort of blended as one, like one soul piggybacking on another one, like a ibur, like a pregnancy. So a pregnancy, is it two people or one person? It's actually one person, but there's another person developing inside there who is completely reliant on the mother, gets life from the mother, is not a separate entity, but it is a separate entity. So too, this other soul can be impregnated in you for a temporary time, and then it moves on, and you go on. And so the Arizal writes about this in detail, that there's two possible reasons why that could happen. One is for your sake, and one is for their sake. And in pregnancy, impregnated soul could come for your sake to help you, to give you a bit of a boost, to give you some help, to help you on your mission. And so another soul comes and aids you, gives you assistance, or it could be for their purpose. They need fixing, they need a correction, and it can only be done through a living person. that correction could only happen down in this lifetime. Instead of being reincarnated all over again and starting from birth and going through an entire lifetime, they could come temporarily to be impregnated in another soul, do what they've got to do, and then they're able to move on. But ultimately, it's up to you. You're the one with free choice. You're the mother holding the baby here, so you're the one who has to do the work. But it helps that other soul. In the case of Noah coming down into Moses, it was an ibur, it was an impregnation of his soul. That the soul of Noah came down for a temporary time in the soul of Moses and was corrected and then was able to go on and move on. And Moses could then continue with his own life. And this idea opens up a whole other area of thought of what an ibur could be, what an impregnation of a soul could mean for you. You go through a certain time in your life where things are very difficult, unusually difficult. You go through particular challenges. All of a sudden, like one day to the next, suddenly many, many challenges come to you. It could be you're impregnated with a soul that needs fixing, needs to go through stuff. So you go through it with them. And that soul not only brings its problems, but also brings its strength, its abilities to face those things. And you, together with it, can fix that soul, and then it moves away. It goes. And as quickly as it arrived, this patch of your life turns away, is gone. And it's like, you're back to where you were. What just happened?
Does it benefit for the host soul when they help?
So there always is, yes. There always is a benefit because all of that growth and all that experience and all that correction, it's a team. You do it as a team. So maybe you're doing it for somebody else to help somebody else, but helping somebody else is always a benefit for you. It's always a blessing for you. And it's always about doing more good. There's some mitzvah, there's some good deed, there's something you need to bring to the world in a positive way that will help you. In the case of Moses, that was his defining moment. His greatest moment was that moment when he stood up for his people. That really took him to a new level. He was doing it for Noah's soul, but for him, it took him to an even higher place than he was before. So it's benefits everybody, but it might be difficult, might be hard, like pregnancy. It's not easy. It's 9 months. It can be tricky, but what greater blessing could there be? So we've seen a few things. We've seen, first of all, the most fundamental reason for reincarnation, and that is to fix unfinished business. Noah didn't do it the first time, so you get a second chance. Reincarnation, therefore, is not seen as a punishment, but rather an opportunity. It's not that you're cursed to come back down into this world. It's that you're given another chance. That ultimately, nothing really is a punishment. Everything is some type of correction, some form of growth, some way for our soul to reach its ultimate purpose. And so for a soul to come back down into this world, it, from a soul perspective, doesn't sound ideal. Our soul never really wanted to come down in the first place because our soul is a heavenly being, is much happier in the heavens. And so to come down into this physical world is a descent. That's why we describe it as coming down. It's not up and down, but spiritually it is. From a higher spiritual place to a lower state. And so the soul doesn't really want to come down here. It is a descent for the soul. And leaving this world is a release for the soul. It's going back to the heavenly realms where it's much more comfortable. It's more at home. So to be sent back down seems like a punishment because I thought I've done with that. I finally left the confines of the body in the physical world, and now I'm going back down. But yes, because you have more work to do. There's a part of your soul that's not fulfilled yet. You haven't fully activated every part of your soul, so you got to come back down to fix that, to do some more work. So it's not a punishment. It's for the fulfillment and the full expression of your soul. Like in the case of Noah, a great soul. He was a righteous person. The Torah doesn't describe anyone else as tzaddik, as a righteous person. Noah is a righteous person. But for such a righteous person, when he has that blemish on his soul, he didn't fully fulfill his powers. It's a blessing for him to come back down and fix it. And maybe because he was so righteous, he didn't have to be reincarnated for a full lifetime, but he could be impregnated for a temporary time to just fix your unfinished stuff and then move on.
I read the reading that Noah, when God told him that everyone's going to be destroyed, he should have told everyone that and to tell them to improve. That's one thing, and he didn't. But say, for example, he did at that time say to God, I want to go too. I don't want to be saved. I want to go. Does that mean that Moses wouldn't have come? Does that mean he would have fulfilled his mission then?
Well, that's a good question. Had Noah stood up for his generation, so then his soul would have fulfilled its full destiny, and Moses would not have had to be put into that same position. Doesn't mean that Moses would never have existed.
Say, I don't want to be saved in the flood. Take me with the people. Is that what he should have said, or?
Well, yeah, he should have stood up for them. He shouldn't have just accepted. Okay, they're being destroyed. I'm being saved.
He should have said, take me to, or something.
Yeah. The Zohar also differentiates Noah from Abraham. Why is Abraham considered the father of the Jewish people? We're all descended from Noah as well. So why is Abraham considered the father of monotheism? Noah believed in one God as well. He was 10 generations earlier. So why do we say Abraham is our forefather? And he's the father of well, what about Noah? He's the father of everybody. Yeah, but Noah didn't stand up for it. He wasn't a leader who influenced others. He believed in God, but there was a whole world out there that was being immoral, and he didn't do anything about it. He accepted that. That's not a leader. That's not a father. Whereas Abraham, he was the only righteous person also in many ways, that he was a monotheist. He believed in God when everyone else was worshiping idols. Everyone else didn't have this moral code that he believed in, but he spread it. He shared it. He told people about it. And so therefore he's a father. He's a forefather. He's the beginning of something. Whereas Noah was just an individual. So that was his blemish. That was what he was missing. And Moses took it to the next level, where he was willing to put himself aside completely for his people.
So do you think there could have been a reincarnation of Noah through Abraham as well? That he had two blemishes, that he didn't spread and didn't stand up for his people.
Possible. Yeah. Yep. Sure.
So if reincarnation helps you to fulfill your mission or to redo things, what is then the ultimate mission of the soul? Like if you're doing reincarnation all the time, what is the ultimate goal of the soul? Like
Right.
what is the
So the answer to that is quite scary. The Arizal says that our mission is to fulfill all 613 commandments of the Torah. That's what the soul has to do, to fulfill all 613. Yes, we're talking about the Jewish soul, correct. This is the Jewish soul's mission, to fulfill all 613 commandments of the Torah. Oh my goodness. I don't know anybody who's done that. How's that even possible? Not all 613 commandments apply to me. I'm not a Kohen, so the commandments of a Kohen don't apply. There are mitzvahs that are for a woman. There are mitzvahs that only apply if you're in a particular circumstance, when you're farming and I don't have a farm. How am I supposed to fulfill all the commandments? So the Rizal says that's why we have to be reincarnated. That one generation, they did those commandments. The ones in the temple, they did those commandments. And where the next generation, there's a mitzvah they didn't manage to do. There's something they didn't get to. And so we have to do the unfinished business for them. That's one answer. But also the Hasidic masters and the great mystics also said that there's another way that you can fulfill your soul and fulfill all the commandments, and that is by feeling a sense of unity with others. When the Jewish people, particularly, when we recognize that our souls are intertwined, and so I have a vertical connection to the souls of the past, but I have a horizontal connection to the souls that are around me now. And so when I feel that connection to the past, So then the commandments, the mitzvahs that they did, I continue. And when I feel a connection to the souls around me, then our mitzvahs also intermingle. And so you've done a mitzvah that I didn't do, and you've done one that I didn't do, and I did one that you didn't manage to get to. And so if we feel a sense of unity and wholeness, so then collectively we've done the mitzvahs, and my mitzvahs count for you, and yours count for me, because we're not united, we're not separate, we're united, we're one soul. So this is ultimately the general mission, to feel united together and to feel connected to the past. But specifically, there might be a particular mitzvah, not just one of the 613 mitzvahs, but a particular act that your soul needs to do. There's a particular person that in your previous lifetime you hurt and you didn't make amends, or you took something that belonged to them and you didn't return it, or there was some favor you could have done for them and you neglected to do it. And so we've got to fix that. We've got to fix that up. And so you come back down in this lifetime, and you're going to be put in that situation where you could again neglect to help them, or you've got something that they end up getting, that one of your piece of your property, one of your belongings ends up in their hands. And that's what the Zohar said in the book of Mishpatim, the book of laws, where it can happen that somebody has a dispute with a neighbor, and you lose the dispute, and they win, and they get it, and it's not fair. You know that you were right, and they got it, they won it. You know it's wrong. You know somebody's ripped you off, and you take them to the tribunal or whatever, and they get away with it, and it was my money, and they've got it. This is terrible. This is ridiculous. Says the Zohar, these are the laws. This is the laws of reincarnation. That if that's what ends up happening, that's meant to happen, because that property was supposed to go back to them. Maybe last time, in the last lifetime, you had it, and wrongly it was supposed to be theirs. So now you got to give it back. And it happens in this way that seems so unfair. That's your fixing. That's your correction. Imagine we looked at it that way when we lost our court cases. Anyway, so that's our mission in general, is to do mitzvahs. The thing is, we don't know which one. We don't know which mitzvah is the fulfillment of our soul. Which interaction is going to be the thing that my soul came down to do? Which person am I meeting again from my previous life that last time I got it wrong and this time I got to get it right?
But we're sitting all the time, so this could just be going on and on and on.
Okay. So yes, that's also true, and we'll deal with that, and we'll speak about that idea. If we're fixing things, but we're also stuffing things up.
Yeah.
We're making it better, but we're making it worse. We'll get to that. It's a good question. Yeah.
I wanted to ask, if a soul comes down to repair whatever damage has been done, is that a soul that knows you? Is it perhaps family of yours in years preceding this occurrence, or is it a strange soul who knows nothing about you?
Well, if there's something that you need to fix, particularly with that soul, so then that means in the previous life there was some interaction that didn't go right, or that was unfinished, or that ended up in the way that it's not supposed to. And so this time you got to do it again. So, and you will meet them. So they were an acquaintance in the last life, and now you're meeting them again in this lifetime, through the circumstances of life that God organizes. Hashem organizes that you bump into the people you need to bump into, and you deal with them. So when you swipe the car, and okay, that person, whatever that was meant to be, you're meant to be. This does not mean that you're absolved from the responsibility, but this interaction was supposed to happen. That God arranges.
I'm sitting up there with an algorithm of
Mhm. Correct. Yeah, which is wondrous beyond our imagination, but it can be a very comforting thought to think that nothing is random, nothing is accidental, nothing is not meant to be. That's meant to be, and this was my fixing. If we thought that way every time things went wrong for us, or every time things were inconvenient, we lost something that we were hoping for. If we just, okay, this is meant to be. It doesn't mean we're passive and we just let things happen. But if it's happening, if this is what has happened, okay, so that's meant to be. I could fight for it. I can try, and if not, not. If the answer is no, the answer is no. This is what's meant to be. It's a very different way to operate, knowing that there's a higher purpose to everything. But we don't see. We're not the Arizal. We're not these Kabbalists who can see who that person is and what that person is and why these things are happening. So in real time, it's just confusing. But when we remind ourselves, there's a deeper story going on. There's a Kabbalistic tale going on beneath the surface. Then things are totally different. I'll give you an example, an amazing story. There was a great Hasidic master. The Hasidic movement was the renewal of the mysticism that came in the 1700s. The Baal Shem Tov was the first teacher of the Hasidic movement, and his students continued and spread the ideas of mysticism in a very practical way to live by it. And so there was a real revival in the 1700s of mystical thought in Europe. And amongst the Baal Shem Tov had a student called the Mezritcher Maggid, who was from the town of Mezrich. The Maggid means the storyteller or the speaker. And he had many students who then spread all around Europe. One of his students was Rabbi Aaron from the city of Karlin in Russia. And he was a great mystic and teacher. When he passed away, his student his name was Rabbi Shlomo of Karlin. And everybody looked to him to be the next teacher. In every Hasidic community, there'd be what's called the Rebbe. The Rebbe is more than a rabbi. A Rebbe is a holy man, a seer, somebody who understands souls, who can give blessings, who can give direction. And their advice was not just based on their wisdom, it was based on higher wisdom, on seeing the direction that a soul needs to take. Rabbi Aaron of Karlin, he was such a leader, and he passed away. And everyone looked at Shlomo, Rabbi Shlomo Karliner, to take over. He'd be the next one. They wanted him to be their Rebbe. He said, no, I'm not worthy. He didn't see himself as being on that level and worthy of it. And he also saw how when you're a Rebbe, it's hard work. You know, people asking you questions, life and death issues, all of their problems, and they're constantly coming to you. He was happy to just have a quiet life, to study Torah, to teach a little bit. He didn't want to be bothered by this great responsibility. So he kept refusing the position, which, by the way, is a sign of a real Rebbe. Most holy people, if they're chasing after the job, they're probably not so holy. If they're reluctant, there's maybe something there. So he was reluctant until he had a dream. One night he had a dream where his teacher, Rabbi Aaron of Karlin, had passed away, appeared to him in the dream and said, my student Shlomo, take on the mantle of leadership, and I'll give you the vision to see soul journeys, to understand every soul, where they come from, where they're going, and what their correction is. I'll give you the power to do it. But you have to accept the leadership. So in the dream, he said to his Rebbe, okay, but that, if I'm going to be given that power, it's too much to resist. I'll accept. And he woke up that morning with a start. He remembered this very vivid dream he had. And when you dream of a holy person like that, it's not just one of these silly dreams. There's something in it. He knew that was a real interaction. And when he opened his eyes, the world was different. He looked around and he could see what we can't see. He could see people and he could see their souls. He could see where they come from. He could feel what their mission was. He was a transformed person. When somebody has that power, people get to know. People find out. You can see when somebody has this type of vision. And so people started coming to him and asking for blessings. The way it's done in the Hasidic tradition is that somebody would write their name and in Hebrew and their mother's name and the blessing that they requested on a piece of paper. And the Rebbe would look at the name, and through the name he would see all types of higher information of this soul's journey. So people started coming. It's called a kvittel in Yiddish, a little piece of paper it means. The people come with these kvittelach to Reb Shlomo. And he started giving blessings and giving advice, and his blessings were fulfilled and his advice was real, and people saw that he was for real. Very early on in his career as a Rebbe, somebody came running into him, a messenger from one of the wealthy landowners in the village of Karlin. a lovely man with a beautiful family, but he'd become very sick. And he was so sick, it seemed to be like there was no hope. The doctors didn't know what to do, but he was a young man, and he had young children, and so somebody came to Rabbi Shlomo with his name on a piece of paper and with a donation as well. Please accept this donation on behalf of this wealthy man. He's really unwell. Please give a blessing that he should get better. Rabbi Shlomo looks at it, and as he's looking at it, somebody runs into the room and says, Rebbe, it's an emergency. It was a woman who ran a homeless shelter on the edge of the village of Karlin, and she said that there's a woman in the homeless shelter who has been in labor for the last 2 days, in extreme pain. She's on the verge of death, and the baby's just not coming out. Please, here's the paper, here's her name. Give a blessing for this poor homeless woman who's trying to give birth, and the baby's not coming out. Her life is on the line. And so these two blessings came to him at the same time. And he looked at these two pieces of paper, and he saw that the soul of the wealthy man needed to go into the baby. This baby was waiting for the soul of the wealthy man to be born, which means that as long as the wealthy man is alive, the baby can't be born. And if the baby is born, then the wealthy man can't live. But if the wealthy man gets better, the baby can't get born. So Reb Shlomo here is being asked to pray for the health of this man, to pray for the birth of this baby. But he sees, I can't pray for both. This soul has to go to that person. It's either he dies and the baby's born, or he gets better and the baby's not born. What do you pray for?
Baby.
One argument would be pray for the baby, a whole life in front of it. But this is a young father with kids. The baby hasn't been born yet. Like he has a life. Take this life to give that life. What do we do? But on the other hand, to pray for him to live and the baby shouldn't, it's impossible. So Reb Shlomo prayed, God, do as is your will. He couldn't take responsibility of praying for one to die. We can't do that. We pray for life. We don't pray for death. He couldn't do that. So he said, God, please do as your will. And indeed, the will of God was done. The wealthy man passed away, and the baby was born. He was a family in mourning that the father had passed, and he was a new baby was born. Soon after this, the Rabbi Shlomo learned that it was so cold in this homeless shelter that this mother with a baby was really suffering. So he took some of the money that the family had sent to pray for the wealthy man, and he sent it to the homeless shelter and said, buy some wood, heat up the place, look after them. This money, it belongs to them anyway. It's the money from the father who passed away. It really belongs to the baby. Here's the money. And then soon after that, the rest of the money, he went to this woman, this mother, and said, here, take some money. It's for you to look after your baby. Because Reb Shlomo knew, nobody else knew, but Reb Shlomo knew that this soul is now over there. The money I received for here, that's where it belongs. Anyway, some time went by, and this mother and child, the child started growing up. And after a couple of years, she would take him around, and they would travel around the villages, and they would schnorrer, they would beg for a living. That's what they were homeless. They would go from community to community. People would give donations, and the boy had grown up. He was already 6 years old, and they came back to Karlin in their journeys. They were back to the village of Karlin where they started, and it happened to be that it was a bar mitzvah of one of the children of the wealthy man who'd passed away. 6 years had gone by, and one of his little kids had grown up to be bar mitzvah, and the bar mitzvah was being celebrated in the home, in the beautiful mansion of this wealthy family who had lost their father. In those days, the simchas and bar mitzvah celebrations they were done at home, but it was open to the community, and friends and family would all join. And at every celebration, there would be a table set for the poor of the community. The poor of the village would be invited to come, and they'd be invited to sit at a special table for them and to take part. So the family would celebrate, and they would also make sure that the poor and the needy would celebrate. And this was a wealthy family, so all the poor in town knew that they would at least get a good feed and be welcome at a celebration. So they came, including the mother with her little boy, who was age 6 at the time. They walked into the house, and as soon as they walked in, this kid started acting funny. He had these airs about him, this of self-importance all of a sudden. Like he was the boss here. And he walked around, started walking around the place as if this was his place. It was a bit strange, but we know why. It is his place. He's the father of the house. He's got the soul of the father of the house. He walks around, and they point him to sit at the table where the poor people sit to eat. He says, "I'm not sitting here. I'm sitting up there with the family." And he insisted to go up and to sit at the head table with the family. This poor kid from the homeless shelter. Rabbi Shlomo of Karlin was there, and he remembered this boy, and he remembered the story. So he said, "Leave him. Let him sit there. Don't make a scene. It's fine. He can sit there," knowing that that's where he belongs, at the head table. It's the father. He sat there. It was a bit awkward. The family's sitting there, and then this sort of kid is sitting there like, who is he? But Rabbi Shlomo said to do it. They let him there. So they brought him some food from the poor table where they have, like a stew, a cholent, a kugel, whatever they have. They brought him some. He said, "I'm not eating that food. Give me the food that the family's eating. I want the good pieces of meat." Again, I thought, this is strange. And I said to the mother, "Is this how your child behaves all the time?" She said, I don't know what got into him. I've never seen him like this. So Shlomo again said, "Give him the nice food. Go let him, give him the food. It's fine." Anyway, the simcha continued. It was a beautiful evening. Later, towards the end, there was a beautiful custom that at the end of a celebration, the poor people would line up and the family would give donations to each one, a few coins to each poor person, that they should go home with a happy heart. And so the mother took her boy, and they went in line. And when they came to the front, they were also given a few coins. And the boy says, "I'm not taking this. Give me some of the treasure from the treasure chest." And he started pointing to where they hid their gold and their treasures. The family said, "This is ridiculous. What's going on here?" So they told the servants, "Kick him out. Get rid of this kid." Unfortunately, Rabbi Shlomo had already left. He wasn't there to stop this scene. And so, but lady heard about that the boy was kicked out because he was revealing all the secrets of the family, where the treasure was hidden. And Rabbi Shlomo was heartbroken. And he said, it's a great blessing to have this vision, but it's also a big burden, because it's amazing to know whose soul belongs where, and but to see what people do, and to see what people don't know, and I can't reveal it. It's a secret that he's not able to reveal. He can't tell everyone their stories. And so he felt very burdened by this knowledge, and as much of a blessing it's not easy. It's not easy to know this and to see what people do. We can see a few things from this story. There's a few things we can take from it. That first of all, when somebody is behaving unusually, strangely, so there's many possible reasons for that. And we know that. We all go through moods, and we all sometimes go through funny things. But we never would have guessed, when we saw this kid, the way he was behaving at this bar mitzvah, that there's a very simple explanation to it. He's got the soul of the father of the bar mitzvah boy. And so therefore he walked in here like it's his thing, because he feels it is, because his soul is that. We never would have thought of that. Only someone with Reb Shlomo's vision can see that this makes total sense. To the rest of us, it's ridiculous. So with this knowledge that that's possible, even though we can't see it, but to know that's possible, we can maybe give a little bit more slack to people. Yeah, we're all a bit strange sometimes. Something gets into us and we behave a certain way and something pushes us in a certain way and we don't know what it is. Could it be something like this? Who knows? We don't know the big story. Just like on a very simple level, somebody walks into work or you bump into somebody and they're rude to you or they brush you off, whatever it is. So what do you say? Oh, they must be having a bad day. Who knows what they've just been through? Who knows what happened to them? There's a story that came before that story. So instead of getting angry or upset or defensive or attacking, we give the benefit of the doubt. There's a story that precedes this story as well. Well, here this is on another level. Not just there's a story that precedes that he had a bad morning. What happened in the past life? Where are they coming from? What's got into them from somewhere completely beyond this world? And even for ourselves as well. Why we also go through, so we have these weird intuitions or feelings or familiarity with a certain place or a certain person. We feel very at home in this place, and another place we don't feel that way. Why is this happening? We have a bigger story. We have a grander scheme that we're not aware of. Why this place we feel this is where we belong, and we gravitate to these people and to those people. There are bigger forces that are pushing us. So what that can give us is a little bit more, I guess, patience and slack and tolerance, and weird things can happen. We're in a weird world. We live weird life. There's strange things happening that are beneath the surface that we don't understand. It doesn't excuse bad behavior. It doesn't mean we should just say, well, I'm sorry, I'm rude, but it's my past life. We can't, it's not. We take responsibility for how we behave. But at the same time, something weird got into us. Who knows? It could be something bigger. But also the fact that Rabbi Shlomo in this story, he spoke about the burden of having this knowledge. It's heavy. It's heavy to know where you came from in a past life. It's heavy to know people's stories, where they came from, because we just don't know what we're doing. We don't know where we are. And so this, I think, is the reason why for the average person, this stuff is not revealed to us. We don't know our previous life. We don't know the other person's previous story. We don't know exactly what our mission is, because it would be too burdensome. It's too much information. But also, it gives us the responsibility to look at every circumstance we're in as maybe this is my moment. Maybe this interaction I'm having now is the moment that my soul came down into the world to fix. Maybe this person who's testing me right now and frustrating me and acting really annoyingly, that's the person I have to be nice to and patient with, because their soul and my soul came down to meet again to fix what we got wrong last time. Maybe this frustration that I'm receiving from that person is exactly why I'm here. I don't know. If I did know, so then I would not be tolerant of anybody except the one soul that I need to fix. Everyone else who annoys me, get out of here. Stop it. But that person, okay, I've got time for you. But because I don't know who it is. Is it you? Is it me? Is it the next guy? I don't know who it is. I have to make sure that in every interaction I have to think, if this was why my soul came down, would I be proud of my behavior? Can I stand up and say, yes, I did the right thing? Or am I going to regret it for another lifetime? I have no idea. Which mitzvah is my mitzvah? Maybe in my previous lifetime and the one before that, I did 612. I fulfilled 612 mitzvahs. There's just one that my soul came down to do in this lifetime. And probably it's not going to be the easiest. You can almost bet that if this is your soul's mission, if this interaction is the thing that you need to fix, it's not going to be easy for you. It's going to be the test of your lifetime. It's going to be the thing that the person that most presses your buttons, that's the person that I've got to make peace with. The person that annoys me the most, that challenges me the most, that rubs me the wrong way, that's the person who my mission's probably there. The mitzvah that I find the most difficult to do, the most challenging, that rubs against my nature, it's too hard. That's where it is. That's where your mission is going to be. It's going to be in that very area.
Not Jewish, not Jewish, not reincarnation. Be Jewish in one life and Christian or Muslim in another.
So for a Jewish soul, our incarnation is generally Jewish. Sometimes it's the other way, that a Jewish person who renounced their religion in a lifetime has to come back as a non-Jew who chooses the Judaism in this lifetime, and to fix that.
So they talk about the Mashiach coming. Does that mean that our souls are at a level that the Mashiach can come and there'll be a new dimension of sorts?
Yeah, correct. That's something that the Rebbe spoke about, the Lubavitcher Rebbe spoke about, is he said that we're in the generation of Mashiach. We're ready. We're in the time when Mashiach is ready to come. He's here. We just have to open our eyes. And the question that everybody asked is, we're worthy of Mashiach? We look at these previous generations of these incredible scholars, these holy men, these people who are on such a high level. We look at our own grandparents that were even like they were seemed to be on a much greater level than us, and certainly previous generations. And what we're going to bring Mashiach this generation, it seems like, how could we be worthy? So the Rebbe said, well, we are reincarnated souls. We've been here before. We are continuing their work. We are taking up where they left off. So previous generations took the world, they elevated the world to a certain level, and then the next took it to the next level, and the next to the next. And we just have to tip it to the last little bit, where the metaphor that the Medrash, the Talmud uses, is that it's like a midget on giant's shoulders. We're a tiny midget of a soul, but we're on giant shoulders. So what does that mean? That it's not just your soul, it's all the souls that you've been before, all your past souls, all of that accumulated goodness, all the mitzvahs that they did, all the holiness and the righteousness that they accumulated. You're just coming to finish it off. So you're on their shoulders, you just got to do that little bit. And so in a way, what's expected of our generation is so small, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to do that. And so if there's somebody who doesn't seem to be all that holy and righteous, but there's one thing they do, there's one good deed that they do, maybe that's what their soul needed to do, and that's it. And for previous generations, that wasn't enough. For our generation, that is enough, because we're continuing their work. So Mashiach can come now. It might be just the next good deed that makes it happen. Okay, we're going to leave it there for tonight. And please God, we will continue exploring the topic further next week. Same time, same place.